different feeling cartoon. Had a lot of cool little one-liners. Stoop kid never leaves a stoop, and so on.
Personally, I think Harold was amazing up until the Valentine's Day episode. Anything after that is just not nearly as good because it went completely in a different direction. It went to more of like a kid's soap opera-y kind of feel to it. And it just wasn't the same. Like
Wild Thornberries should be mentioned in there.
Oh, absolutely. Wild Thornberries was really good.
A little bit of trivia on the off chance you know what the Wild Thornberries are and didn't know this fact that Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers plays him. Plays Donnie, the boy. I don't know how to describe. Where'd they even get him?
Borneo, if I'm not mistaken, because they did like an hour-long special of like where Donnie came from.
Now also had a movie. Actually, I think it had 2 movies, right?
Yeah, it had the Wild Thornberries movie and then Rugrats Go Wild.
Yeah.
Which was a really weird thing that they did. Like nobody
was pretty good.
Yeah. Like nobody was expecting it because the Rugrats are the fucking Rugrats, one of the most well-known and most beloved cartoons of all time.
Yeah. The fact that not to cut your thought off, but the fact Nickelodeon's still not profiting off of Rugrats, like, to this day, it just mind blows me. Just like, that should be their thing.
Yeah.
Like, that was probably their biggest show when I was a kid. Like, everybody watched Rugrats. I knew, like, my babysitters at the time watched Rugrats. Like, it was just such a cool show.
Then they went and ruined it.
And then the internet had to ruin it even more with their weird creepypastas. Any other Nickelodeon shows you can think of that really need a shout out?
Rocco.
Oh, Rocco.
Rocco's Modern Life. My personal favorite Nickelodeon cartoon.
Not a huge fan, but I know Chudge is.
I always thought that was really fun.
Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy. It's hard to talk about, like, Ren and Stimpy is such an odd show. Like, you have to have the personality to like it.
But, yeah, I guess we can kind of get into, like, the very last segment, I would say, of the non-kid shows from the 90s. I mean, we're not going to talk about, like, Simpsons was around. It's great. If you don't know the Simpsons are great, you're dumb and just don't watch television.
Yeah, that's going to be a topic for another day. Like,
but,
I literally have it here, written down, so we'll talk about the Simpsons, don't you worry.
Celebrity Deathmatch.
Oh, that was such a fun show.
I wish that was still around.
Like, they tried to bring it back a few years ago.
Alright, let's go into a little detail, because I feel like a lot of people don't know what Celebrity Deathmatch is. It was a claymation show on MTV where they made little clay models of celebrities, and then they would fight in like a wrestling ring to the death. And it was super violent, super ridiculous, but just amazing.
Just over the top and just amazing. And it went on for several seasons.
It had a video game, actually. I had the video game growing up. It was just awesome. I wish they would bring it back.
They did try to bring it back, and that they tried to make a block of 3 shows a few years ago. I'm not going to get into the fucking details of what the other shows were, because you can go ahead and look them up. But
was Daria one of them?
No. They were new. They were 2 new cartoons, like
that sucks.
Chico and Guapo Show, I believe it was called. I'm not even fucking joking. Where Are My Dogs At? And then the new Celebrity Deathmatch. It was Celebrity Deathmatch. It didn't really change at all, but that entire block was just doomed, which was really sad because it barely even got a season out.
Should have mentioned Daria. Not a huge fan, but I know it has a strong fan base. But yeah, Celebrity Deathmatch was amazing.
And by extension, Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
Who had a match in Celebrity Deathmatch, which was fucking awesome.
And I would even go so far as to say King of the Hill spinoff.
Yeah, man. King of the Hill it went on for a while.
Would you consider King of the Hill to be a spinoff of Beavis and Butthead? I mean, I know Hank and... Does that character have a name?
Yeah, he does. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but Hank is based off, in case you guys didn't know, the character of Hank Hill is based off of another character Mike Judge did in Beavis and Butthead, who was like their neighbor, that old neighbor who they always cause trouble for. And he made that into Hank Hill. Same voice, everything. And he just brought that up with a whole new cast of characters and made a family-friendly
Yeah, much more family
Like,
friendly.
yeah.
I would even say King of the Hill is probably the most family friendly of like the Family Guys, Futuramas, all those kind of shows.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It definitely has a very, very slight adult undertone. Definitely not intended for kids, but it's one of those kind of shows where if you have a slightly more adult cartoon, all out Simpsons, Family Guy, King of the Hill is the one to go for. Like, I have a hard time watching it now just because Hank Hill reminds me so much of my dad, it makes me sick. But, it's a good show, man. Like, really interesting characters, really funny topics, really, really good show.
Alright, so, you ready to move into the final thing?
Nope.
I got some more.
Oh, we got a lot. We still haven't talked about live action shows on Nickelodeon.
Alright,
Definitely have to be said.
All that. Amazing SNL kind of clone, do its own thing. Because you had SNL and, by extension, Mad TV. But Mad was, like, less refined, more kind of ridiculous version. Yeah. And then you had all that came out on Nickelodeon, which was just really cool.
And they did it well.
Yeah, then you had the spin-off series, right, of Kenan and Kel, which came right out of that. Because I believe the Kenan and Kel originally was just a segment and all that.
I don't even know about that, because, like, they were just part of it.
But I remember they did, like, Kenan and Kel segments. I think they did, like, the convenience store stuff, but I don't think they ever did, like, his home life or anything.
I honestly don't remember that.
I might be remember it wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. So I can remember, like, there was the burger thing.
Yeah.
That led to Good Burger. But I don't think Good Burger was really ever mentioned in Kenan and Kel, was it?
No, that was its own separate thing.
Yeah.
They had, like, a couple, like, weird, like, made-for-TV movies.
I think that should be its own thing, though. Like, we get into Disney made-for-TV movies.
Yeah. Because
that is a very, very mixed bag. From really cool ones to... What were they thinking? There's one that we should talk about, though, were game shows for kids.
Oh, Nickelodeon.
They had a bunch of them.
Why did you get rid of them? Alright, let's start from kind of at the bottom and go up.
Alright, yeah, the one we had to dig through, like, the house. What the hell was that called?
I don't even remember. I know what you're talking about. I just don't remember fucking anything about it.
Yeah, it seemed like it didn't have a very long run. Like, I could kind of remember it, but I can't really remember anything you did on it.
Yeah.
You had...
Wild and Crazy Kids, that was a fun-ass show. Because, like, every episode was something different.
That was the one that had, like, massive teams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
That was really fun, cool, different.
What Would You Do?
What Would You Do? And Family Double Dare. Mark Summers hosted both of those shows. They were very, very Nickelodeon-y.
What was the one with Suzanne Summers?
Oh, that was
Figure
It Out.
Yeah, Figure It Out. It was pretty good, but didn't really have contestants. Nick Arcade, I guess I would say.
That was a fun show. Like, it was different. No one's done anything like it since. It was cool.
I'd say the strong number 2, Guts, Global Guts. Like, awesome Astro Crag.
Yeah, the old
If anybody's got a piece of the Astro Crag,
Aggro Crag.
Aggro Crag, just kind of hanging out, you could leave me a comment. And I might be willing to put an offer on it.
That would be fucking cool to have, man.
But, and finally, number 1, there's no argument, Legend of the Hidden Temple.
That was just such a cool show. First of all, it was educational a little bit. And it was just really cool and awesome and just original. God damn, that was such a fun show, man.
So what else we got going on there? Some more of the random live actions. You had Kablam. We didn't even talk about.
Oh yeah, shit, Kablam. Oh man, that was a cool show because it was like a compilation of a bunch of little shows.
Yeah.
Like, each of those individual shows probably could have been their own show, which one of them ended up being its own show. Action League Now.
Yeah.
That was really cool. So, Chudge, fun fact. The very first episode of Action League Now was a short at the beginning of Good Burger. Before we get into our final major topic,
we keep teasing.
I want to talk about some cartoons. I don't know if I'm ever going to get a chance to talk about them again, but there are some cartoons that I grew up watching that nobody fucking talks about, and they were on Fox Family. Not ABC Family, but this was before they took over that channel, and it was called Fox Family. And there were a bunch of after-school cartoons that I would always watch. Nobody fucking talks about them, and they are as follows. The big number one, I think the one anybody would remember, especially if you own the Digimon movie on DVD, is Angela Anaconda.
Yeah.
Which, it was quirky, it was different.
Very cool art style.
Oh yeah, where all the human beings they had gray skin. And like, it looked almost South Parky in that kind of like almost weird way that it was drawn.
Yeah.
But it was cool. Three Friends and Jerry. I'm sure nobody fucking knows what that is.
I know. Not gonna lie.
Comments if any of you guys remember these next few ones, because I'm sure there's some people who remember Angela Anaconda.
Yeah.
But these next few ones, I want to say, I can't remember if this was really early Cartoon Network, but I'm pretty sure this was ABC Family or Fox Family. Sheep in the Big City. That was one. Bump in the Night. That was a claymation about a little green monster man who lived under a bed, and everything was like micro, and they were like they were in scale to like real like things. So they were about like this big or whatever. Monster Farm, my personal favorite. Obviously, none of these lasted very long. I just want to put that out there.
There's a reason it became ABC Family.
Monster Farm was really fun. Walter Melon, that's one I remember. That's the one I wanted to talk about most importantly because I think that one could get rebooted. Because all Walter Melon is that in his job was to fix movies or television shows, in that a cast member would call out sick. And so, I'm trying to give some examples here. There was one where and these are all spoofs. So one of them, instead of Jaws, it was Gums. And it was just a cartoon parody of that movie. And the one example I want to give where he, had to, fill in that role for the character who called in sick or whatever was the Mighty Morphin Flower Rangers. And so all the different Rangers were different flowers, and I think he was the Rose Ranger or whatever. And it was hysterical to see like all the different like goofiness that they could come up with. And I think out of all those random shows that nobody fucking remembers, that I would like to see that one more so than anything else be brought back. But post in the comments below if any of you guys remember that. Oh, there was a live-action Addams Family show.
Yeah.
Right at, because, like the two Addams Family movies came out, and it was roughly based off of that.
I do remember that one.
I don't think it was the same cast. I know Uncle Fester was different, because that Uncle Fester definitely was a different Uncle Fester than the one from the movies. Like, it was definitely more akin to the classic one where he had like a higher voice and he sounded like Curly from the Three Stooges. But it was cool. I liked it. Like I said, let me know if any of you guys remember the Fox Family shows, if there's one that I missed. If any of you guys remember Three Friends and Jerry, let me know.
I think you're alone on that. I think you're making it up. Never heard of this.
I swear to God, Jerry's dad was like an angry, like he was British and he was like a gym teacher. He was that kind of character that everybody called him Coach. That was that kind of character. But anywho, let's get back
to the main event.
To the main event. Now, Dave had previously mentioned that these aren't necessarily our favorites. Well, I think it might be his favorite, but
yeah,
these are what we consider to be the best two 90s cartoons of all time. in terms of animation, story, characters, voice acting, the whole shebang. I think all right, let's just get right into this. We're gonna kind of debate this. On Dave's side is Gargoyles. For me, is Batman the Animated Series. I think we can both agree right off the bat. Like I said, these are far and away, I think these are the two best cartoons, bar none, of the 90s.
Yeah, if you could only have, like, one box set, it should probably be either one of these two. Both great series.
There's no reason why you wouldn't dislike... There's no reason why you wouldn't like these shows.
So, on the very, very, very slight chance you don't know what either one of these, maybe Gargoyles a little bit more, I'll give you a very brief rundown of the Gargoyles without spoilers. What Gargoyles is it is set in the medieval ages, and...
The first episode is, anyway.
Yeah, like the opening of it. And you have these creatures, the gargoyles themselves. They're big, scary, demon-looking things. And they're big, scary demon things at night, but as soon as the sun rises, they turn to stone, like a gargoyle. But it's set originally around the time of Macbeth, which is really cool, the retelling of it. And the gargoyles themselves are such cool characters. Now, immediately, as the show starts, you have the humans betraying the gargoyles, and then you have a huge time jump to the 90s. Modern day, super 90s. And
slightly evolved technology, but more or less, it's the mid-90s.
But the way the time jump happened, where the gargoyles had a spell put on them that they could not come out of their stone form until their castle was raised above the clouds. So you have this guy, for lack of a better term.
He's not evil.
He's 90s rich. He's right out of the 80s cocaine-infested super billionaires. He buys a castle and has it transplanted on top of his skyscraper. Kind of dumb, but really cool visual. And then you have the gargoyles, and they fight crime and go on adventures, and then you start seeing these characters from the past show up. Like you have Macbeth, who's cursed and can't die.
And Demona, she was
Goliath's lover, but she views humanity's betrayal stronger than Goliath, whereas Goliath thinks they were wrong, but you can't curse all of humanity.
Yeah. Goliath, voiced by Keith David. Yeah. So, amazing voice acting. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. Like, I know Broadway, the big, goofy gargoyle is voiced by the same guy who voices Patrick from SpongeBob. One of his earlier works.
Yeah, slightly goofy, but very...
He's the dumb one. He's the fat, dumb one.
But you don't have to worry. Like, I know a lot of people are kind of turned off by cartoons where you have to have, like... Well, me and Chudge have just determined to be the Disney kind of throwaway character. Like, everybody has to have them.
Yeah.
This one doesn't really. I mean, you could say Broadway's dumb, but he's dumb in, like, a actual living way. Like, he could survive.
Oh, yeah. Like, they're all very good characters, and, he...
And they're all, if you didn't know, Goliath was the only... Well, I think Demona, too.
Yeah, but...
They're the only two named gargoyles. Like, all other gargoyles called each other brother, right? Brother or sister. Yeah. So they never needed names. And when they end up in New York, they decide they need names. So they're all named after parts of New York. You have Hudson, you have Brooklyn...
Hudson, Brooklyn, Broadway, Lexington, and their little dog gargoyle is named Bronx.
So, later on you'll see more gargoyles, but you have so many cool things from Shakespearean callback characters. You have, elves and fairies and sword fights and a future Macbeth that's like a badass monster hunter. And
just the visuals and just the way that they tell the story of these characters is just amazing. And it's so different and dark for a kid's show. Like, it's a borderline, just... Not for kids.
Like, at no point
get scary.
Do you get, the feeling, with the Turtles, or, those other groups, like, yeah, theoretically they could be pretty scary. Like, oh, it's a giant fucking dinosaur that wants to eat you, and he like can chew through steel, and the street sharks. But I wouldn't really say they were ever scary. Pissed off Goliath was scary.
Yeah, and like when they got pissed, their eyes were glowing like very bright light.
Yeah, and like they would always were tearing through steel and stone, and were climbing up walls. And Goliath really had to fight like his inner nature not to tear apart humans. And like you'd actually have blood in the show. Like they would
absolutely.
people. They had really cool like villains. Like they had the jackals, which were pretty much like TV superheroes that were hunting them, and like they would tear them up. And just so many really cool either tropes and then Shakespearean characters put into the same series. But alright, we're gonna move on. Just give you a little background on Batman the Animated Series.
It is what many comic book fans feel as the definitive Batman mythos. If you were to ask somebody, who is Batman, who is Alfred, who is Dick Grayson, who is Catwoman, who is Joker, who is Bane, who is Two-Face, this is the continuity that you would bring to first-time Batman people that don't really understand what these characters are. They are just done so incredibly well. They are written so incredibly well. They look amazing. Their voices are amazing. The Batman and Joker voice actors, like the Optimus Prime and Megatron we talked about before in one of our other videos, these are the definitive Batman and Joker. They are what people want to hear. That is Batman and Joker to them. And the way that these characters are portrayed and the way that the Batman story is done is just simply amazing. And just the way that they were able to capture just this whole mythos and were able to convey what Batman is just superb.
I would go so far as to say this TV series is the reason Batman is the #1 superhero right now.
Absolutely.
And I think one thing that Chudge kind of skipped out, I'm sure he would have mentioned it later, this is actually the series that introduced Harley Quinn.
Yep. I
figured
we would get into that.
There's no way to not take that and go, wow, like that's so good, and people liked it so much that elements in this show became canon to the larger comic universe. But, alright, you got ready to...
Yeah, let's get into it.
Alright, well here's the reason I view the Gargoyles as being the best series ever, is first and foremost, they have no background.
Mm.
Like, whereas Batman had, I want to say Batman came out, let's just say, he had nearly 60 years
60 years of story to take from.
Yeah, whereas Gargoyles, yeah, you have really cool Shakespearean influences. Gargoyles aren't in Shakespeare. You're not going to read Romeo and Juliet, and they were killed by a pissed off Goliath.
Yeah.
Like, you had, as much as I really, really enjoy the voice acting in the Batman animated series, the voice acting talent alone in Gargoyles is just amazing. I think Gargoyles transcends time. Like, you could put it on now and I think it would be popular. I mean, you wouldn't have to change anything. You have such compelling villains. Not to say the Batman series didn't, obviously it did. Just, I think Goliath is the best version of what the Hulk should look like if they ever make a good Hulk series.
Yeah.
Like, he's in control, but at the same time you could tell this dude's a freaking beast. He'll tear you apart. He's just such a badass. Keith David does an amazing job portraying him. I would love for them to reboot it into a movie.
They are.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well, fucking awesome.
That is, I'm kind of wish we had kind of talked about this at another point, but there's talk about them making a live-action Gargoyles movie, and if it does well, there's talk of them making Mighty Ducks.
Mighty Ducks is a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give a very, very brief rundown of what the Mighty Ducks are. They're from a planet of ducks that play space hockey, and they came to Earth, and they're good at hockey.
And so they are quite literally the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, but they are ducks. And they fight space dragons, and that is all you need to know.
And they have hockey-based weapons.
Yep.
It's a very weird series, and I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be very loosely based off the movies, which don't have ducks in them.
Anywho, back to what we were talking about.
So yeah, Gargoyles, just amazing. I mean, just to have nothing really to go to, I think you got to give them a thumbs up in terms of over a Batman where you have so much mythos.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Again, I agree. Whereas Gargoyles is almost completely taking nothing and just making their own stories, only loosely taking some things from Shakespearean and Macbethan mythologies into that. And with Batman, there was only so much Batman to go with in terms of this. Yes, there was a lot of Batman before this Batman. And, oh god, I don't even know what else I can say about it. Like, Batman, the animated series, redefined Batman, in my opinion. Kind of like what The Dark Knight had did in the 80s to make that the grittier, really dark Batman. It kind of took that, lightened it up a bit, but at the same time kept it at that darkness where you could have some just amazing storytelling. And I think that's the best things. Like, there was an episode, even one of the crappier episodes where there's like nothing really going on, it's still compelling.